It is time for Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Maximum Security 1.
I'm with you. I think you want to. Come on. Every horse is in the way.
Nonsense.
You're just saying that to get on the president's good side. The president tweeted out yesterday that Bob Mueller should not testify. No obstruction, no reduce for the Dems. The president now, William Barr, had said that, Robert Mueller is going to testify. The president saying no testimony for Robert Mueller. Why is the president suddenly changing on this?
I really don't know, but that's okay. He's entitled in light of what he's been through over the last 2 years. I really don't think the president should be criticized for saying anything at this point in light of what Bob Mueller has done to the president, to the country, and to the FBI and the Department of Justice. By the way, I would like to see Bob Mueller testify, and here's why. Here's the first set of questions for Bob Mueller. When did you, as a reasonable prosecutor per Jim Comey, find out that there was no collusion? And why didn't you announce it right away? Why did you hire so many Democrats? Why did you hire Jen Rhee? Why did you hire Weissman? Why did you hide the fact that you fired Peter Strzok? The questions are endless, and they're wonderful. And let me just say, Bob Mueller is having second thoughts about testifying because he knows that the questions from the Republican side are going to be ugly, and they should be, because what Bob Mueller did is a disgrace. If you have read that report, it is adolescent, it's first-year law student crap.
Right, and I would expect Republicans to challenge him on the inversion of justice, that he felt that his job was to exonerate the president rather than to prove him guilty?
Yes, well, that statement in his report is proof positive that he viewed his job from day one as to try to create dirty evidence to smear the president for impeachment purposes. What Bob Mueller did is a disgrace to his entire career, and he hired a bunch of Democratic thugs to make it easier for him to do that. Again, when did he learn that there was no collusion? He kept the investigation going purposely to try to entrap the president into perjury, and that's exactly why the president's lawyers made the best decision possible and not make him available for an interview. This is nauseating federal prosecution policy. If Mueller were anybody else, he'd be fired.
On the flip side of this, though, doesn't it allow the Democrats to ask questions to say, oh, look, Barr lied. We've got Barr on perjury. Nancy Pelosi is already saying that William Barr lied. If they ask certain questions of Robert Mueller, can they set up a perjury trap then for William Barr?
Well, first of all, that's utter nonsense, number one, the accusations. And what you have now is the new counter-narrative. The only way the Democrats can gain any footing now in light of the no collusion conclusion by even the politically corrupt Mueller is to create this thing that everybody else involved in the process is corrupt. So Barr's no good, so he can't investigate the Democratic collusion with the Russians, the Hillary Clinton collusion with the Russians, the Fusion GPS collusion with the Russians, the Christopher Steele collusion with the Russians. This is all designed to distract from the evolving criminal investigation into the conduct of the FBI under James Comey's tenure. Comey will go down in history as the single most corrupt FBI director in history. He has ruined an agency, and with his continuing comments in various interviews, America's dirty cop, the disgraced former FBI director, the nutty, delusional, self-indulgent James Comey continues to create havoc for the FBI.
I got to point out that one of the things that the media is doing is saying that Trump is ordering Barr not to have Mueller testify. I don't think that's actually what happened. The president just tweeted this weekend that Mueller should not testify. It was a normative statement rather than an order, so it's being overinterpreted by the press again anyway.
Yeah, Trump is doing what he has every right in the world to do, to defend himself, to criticize Bob Mueller. He's not ordering Mueller not to testify. And I'm sure that Bob Mueller, being the guy that he is, would disobey that order anyway.
Now, Joe, I want to ask you something about the technical side of this, though. Does Mueller still work for Bill Barr, or can he voluntarily do this as a private citizen anyway?
Well, it doesn't matter. Even if he were a private citizen, he cannot testify about his work for the Justice Department without the consent of the Attorney General.
Okay.
So the answer is it doesn't matter whether he is or he isn't.
Okay, good. And then I want to switch gears here and ask you about this news out of the New York Times last week about a spy that was placed, another spy that was placed on George Papadopoulos in September of 2016, identifying herself as Azra Turk. We know, thanks to the New York Times reporter who went on CNN and said this, that she was not an FBI agent. She was a government investigator sent by the FBI, and he's not willing to be more specific. What does this tell you?
Well, her name is Azra Turk, which, of course, is her nom de guerre, her war name. It's not a real name. She is what they call in the business a spy slut. She was used, they call it honeypot.
That's a business term, the spy slut thing?
They use that at the agency. It's called a spy slut.
Wow.
She was used by the agency to entrap Papadopoulos. Let's remember what all this is all about. George Papadopoulos was nobody. He knew no Russian. He had never been to Russia. He didn't even read anything about Russia. What was happening here, this is what John Brennan set up along with Comey. They put agents of the United States government and foreign assets from other intelligence services in play to plant information with Papadopoulos that he would repeat back to some other foreign intelligence services who would then feed it to the FBI and create a basis for a FISA warrant or an arrest when Papadopoulos returned to the United States from overseas. Make no mistake about it. This had nothing to do with collecting intelligence from Papadopoulos. It had everything to do with planting intelligence with Papadopoulos. He was being used to create a false narrative to frame the incoming president of the United States.
Could any of that have been done without the president knowing, without Obama knowing?
Well, there's no doubt that as a result of the Susan Rice January 20th, 2017 emails that we now know that the president knew, President Obama, Vice President Biden knew for quite a while about the investigation, the counterintelligence investigation, which was fatally flawed from its inception. So the notion that President Obama didn't know is simply laughable. Of course he knew.
Now, one of the George Papadopoulos suspects that Azra Turk may have been CIA. Especially if she's not FBI, who could she be with?
Well, she's definitely CIA. She's a CIA asset. There's no question about it. Remember, Brennan is the one who started this. This is a CIA operation. Brennan is the one who got GCHQ, which is the United Kingdom equivalent of our National Security Agency, the electronic spying agency, to do electronic surveillance of Americans overseas in violation not only of UK law, but U.S. law. He enlisted the help of a foreign intelligence service without authority to spy on Americans overseas. So that's what this is all about. This has always been John Brennan's baby from the start. He started it, and Azra Turk is one of his people. And, you know, let's just see what happens. I hope some civil lawsuits ensue, but more important than that, let's have a grand jury in the Eastern District and in D.C.
Joe diGenova, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week.